Welcome to another episode of Mission Compliance, Unleashing Growth Potential for Defense Contractors. In today's episode, we're diving into the world of compliance audits. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we've got you covered with tips and best practices to help you ace your next audit. Tune in as we explore everything from preparation strategies to navigating common challenges. So whether you're a defense contractor aiming to win more contracts or simply someone interested in bolstering your cybersecurity knowledge, you're in the right place. Dance break! We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC Professional Assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
So, Mike, today's a little bit different. Today we're talking about audits. Audits are an essential part of the compliance process. So can you explain for our audience what a compliance audit entails?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to tell you, there's a wide-ranging answer to that. So I will do the best I can to make that a concise answer, which I will fail at. The first thing is there's two different primary kinds of audits. Number one is a audit of NIST SP 800-171. That is what is currently law right now. And then there is a CMMC certification audit, which is, I'll say that's into the future. Again, CMMC is not actually law yet. It is scheduled to be law possibly by the beginning of 2025. Everything looks on schedule for that. And certainly CMMC is the future for defense contractors and information security requirements. So I think those are very important things. When it comes to the NIST SP 800-171 audits, there are three kinds of audits. And this is something that a lot of people just really seem to get tripped out over. And they just seem to have, there's so much misinformation from vendors. It's a mess. So here's the actual proper understanding. There are three levels of audit. There is a contractor self-audit. And the self-audit is designed to look at the system security plan and the plan of action with milestone, and otherwise your internal documentation. That's it. It does not look at anything else. The second is a DoD medium level audit. Okay, that is conducted by DoD personnel. And again, they will look at your system security plan, and that is it. That's all that they will look at is your system security plan. Do you have it? Are the control descriptions adequate to meet the assessment points? Look, there's 330 plus assessment points, so it's not exactly a very easy document to write. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot that is required of it. But nonetheless, that's important to understand. Third level of audit, I'd say the most rare, but yet still something everyone has to prepare for, is an actual high-level audit. The high-level audit by DoD personnel is the only audit where they will actually look at the system that you have in place. And that's very, very important. Now, are you required by law to have your system be compliant? Sure you are. That doesn't mean that's what they're going to look at in an audit. And I think that's very important for our audience to understand. I think that's a huge and valuable piece of information. I think it should also give everybody out there a whole lot of peace of mind as well. So are you going to get a low, medium, or high audit? Well, everybody by law has to get a low audit. That's the self-assessment. And it is absolutely unknown how, when, or if you will ever receive a medium or a high audit. DoD keeps that under wraps. They do it sporadically. They do it based on contract security severity. They do it on a lot of different things. And believe me, it's very hard to tell what is security sensitive and what is not. DoD keeps that under wraps. So in a high level audit, they're going to come on site typically. That's the modus operandi, if you will. Sometimes they will do it virtually if there is no physical office to visit, and other select circumstances. And they're going to look over your shoulder. They're going to interview your people. They're going to go through the fine-tooth comb, and they were going to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that you're meeting those 330 assessment points. That's what they're going to do in a high-level audit. They're going to do the same thing for CMMC certification. It's just going to be done by non-DoD personnel. It's going to be done by private sector personnel in most cases. So it's important to understand that the future is going from this self-attestation and focus on, do you have the right plan written, to actually having this implemented, right? Not being able to sort of get away without it having implemented. That's where everything's going. And again, there's so much detail that goes in. I mean, the CAP, or the CMMC assessment protocol, is a hundreds of pages long document that explains how to assess. So we certainly won't cover that here on the podcast. We could probably cover the next 1,000 podcasts just reviewing pieces of the CAP. But what I do think is important is I think it's important to understand that if you're just getting into defense work, or if you're sort of approaching this subject for the first time, I would recommend highly working with a company like On Call, who can come in and perform two aspects: a gap analysis to find out where your temporary deficiencies are, and a solution design. So that is designing the solution that's going to allow you to go from where you are to solving for all of your temporary deficiencies. That is the first step on the roadmap. And I think it's very important to understand that that's something that everybody should be getting out of the way, well, back in 2017 when it became law. So again, if you haven't done that, you're kind of behind the eight ball. It's okay. Call us. It is not unusual to watch companies that come to us have already struggled with this for 6 months, 24 months. And again, they're just trying to get through the very first level of self-auditing. So again, we can help you do that. We typically do it in 2 to 3 days. If you've got multiple locations, it may take us a little bit longer. But again, it's not a super huge, crazy effort that your company has to put out. Why? Because, well, we've already been through this like 1,000 times, literally. And so when you've been through it 1,000 times, you've developed all the standard operating procedures, and you've developed the policies, and you've developed the training, and you've developed all the solution set understanding so that you can really remediate any temporary deficiency very quickly. But yeah, that's again, without really drilling into infinite amounts of detail, Roman, I think that's a pretty good summary of the various ways that you can be audited.
Yeah, I don't think we'll spend the next 1,000 podcasts on those little details because for one, we still have 90 controls to get through, and for the other, that's like 20 years. So we just won't do that. Uh, but what are maybe some common challenges that one would go through when preparing for or going through an audit?
It's a good question. I mean, the first thing is go through your plan of action, your plan of action and milestones. Let's check that out. Let's see what's left. Then what I'd recommend is let's go back through your system security plan. Let's make sure the way you actually solved for those temporary deficiencies the first round is how your system security plan continues to be written today. Does it still make sense? Um, if those two documents are in alignment and there are no open plan of action with milestone items, you're going to be good to go in an audit. It's really, I think it's, more or less pretty much about that simple. Um, I think where you get into trouble is when you've got open plan of action and milestone items and they haven't been resolved in a while, 6 months to a year, or you're struggling or whatever, is preventing you, whether it's, political red tape, budget, whatever. I think that if it's been more than 6 months, you've got to really reapproach that and go, hey, look, either what we have in the plan of action doesn't work because it's not cost feasible, or there's something else holding us back. It should not take you more than 6 months in any size organization. And again, we've worked with companies that are 60,000 plus employees large. It just should not take you that long to resolve the deficiencies found in NIST SP 800-171. Now, that is different from having permanent exclusions, or not exclusions. Um, um, Sorry, the word is escaping me right now. But anyway, it'll come to me during the podcast. But anyway, things that you can't fix that you have to write into your plan and have mitigating solutions for, right? Those are the things that I think are, they need to come out of the plan of action if they're not fixable. And if they're not fixable, you have to really strongly reconsider whether or not you should have CUI flowing through those channels. You got to fix that. It's going to be, that's going to be where you get into trouble, is where you're knowingly, obviously, and willingly storing, processing, and transmitting CUI through channels that are not compliant. That's going to be where you wind up costing yourself. Again, fines can go into the millions. So I think there's just got to be kind of a wake up call. And I think, maybe, I don't know, maybe this podcast is a good wake up call for our listeners, who are concerned about this. They want to do good in the audit. Now, I will also share with you that the expectation of getting a perfect 110 out of 110 on a high level audit, we have not seen a company at all do that in the first go around. Just haven't seen it, to be honest. So I think that's sort of another interesting thought is, do you need to have the controls met? Yes. Are they going to nitpick you? Yes. So I think another aspect of this is when you do get audited, it's very much like the IRS audits. At the end of the day, those auditors want to find something. That's their mission. That's what they get paid to do. They're paid to find something. And so I think you should be prepared for that. And I think that you should just generally understand that, one, it happens. Two, I think that they can give you some guidance, hopefully, on at least what the problem is, and then you'll have to come up with a solution. Again, on-call can help you come up with those solutions. And then three, I think it's important to understand that it's simply scored differently. Two of the three are scored according to 171A. I guess really all three are, but one of them is actually, using evidence gathering and going through and verifying what you have there on paper. So it's just generally good to know that that's real. So yeah.
Right. So are there, with that being said, going through the challenges, are there any tips that we can give our audience to ace their next audit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest tip that I could give you is even if you have done this in-house and you think you're ready to go, I would strongly encourage you to work with someone like OnCall. We are a certified third-party assessing candidate. Again, we are awaiting our DIBCAC audit ourselves. And so this is a really good podcast. We were talking about this beforehand. We have walked this walk. We are awaiting our own audit. And we've been through audits with clients before, but we are awaiting our own audit. And I'll tell you that what we did to prepare for it was, number one, we went right back and did another gap analysis right before we applied. We went back through our plan of action with milestones and made sure that there was, good material in there, that it was accurate, relevant, et cetera. And I think that, generally speaking, we're, sitting here looking at this saying, there's nothing else I can be doing right now to make our security better. That's a really good position to be in. If you feel that way about your organization, you feel like all your bases are covered, you're as ready as it's going to get. I think the other thing is documentation. One of the biggest things that they're looking for in audits is proof of what your actual standard operating procedures are. You're going to need to make sure that those things are all done. If you are looking at your documentation and going, we have nothing, call OnCall. It is by far and away far less expensive to hire us, let us customize the documentation for you, than it is to go out and hire an attorney to go and draft this. I can tell you from personal experience, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to have an attorney draft these documents. We get to go and share all of that with you guys as clients of ours. And again, I just, believe me, multiple six figures is what it costs us to get custom policies developed. I think we run something like 18 to 20 standard operating procedures, policies, and things like that. It's an incredible package. It's very comprehensive. I wouldn't call it one size fits all, but we get to customize it during our consultations with you. And it is invaluable as a starting point slash, I wouldn't even call it a starting point. I mean, it's a done for you point to really get that documentation in order. Again, the auditors are going to look at your documentation probably harder than they're going to look over your shoulder at your system for a lot of aspects of this. So I would really, really make sure that your documentation is buttoned up. If you have a one-page network diagram with three things on it, and it's pretty rough, and you really can't get a clue about what's going on in that network, it's a really good time to go back in and redo that. So, yeah, I think those are probably the number one tips. I think the other thing is relax. At the end of the day, so long as you've got your documentation in order, so long as you've had somebody like OnCall look over this stuff, at the end of the day, auditors are going to have opinions. There's 110 different controls. There's 330 plus assessment points. There's a lot to this. It's not easy. And there's going to be some opinions about whether things are met or not met. Fortunately, typical C3PAOs, they're going to have committees and multiple members of their compliance team to understand this stuff, to kind of go back and forth. And I think everybody's on the same page that what they really want is they just want you to pass. They want you to get the Mets, not the not Mets. Because at the end of the day, you guys are doing something important in the world of defense. We don't want to inconvenience anybody too much. But again, if you've sort of ever been through one of our presentations, we talk about the idea that other adversaries in the world have simply gotten really, really good at stealing our technology. And so as a result, we just have to find a way to make it so they can't do that. And that's what this is all about. So, that's I think that's really how I would prepare. And I think, some good commentary on that.
And you know how this goes. We do three normal questions that are full of a lot of great information, a lot of stuff on a very important topic. And auditing is about one of the most important topics we talk about with this, because it's where it all, you spend all this time getting compliant, and then you have to make sure somebody has to come in and make sure that you are and everything's good. But so this is a crucial topic, but we always like to get you have a silly question at the end to kind of break up some of the monotony of these things. And I think this particular one fits right in with our some of our marketing stuff here at OnCall that we've done in the past. So with that being said, Could I wear a superhero costume to intimidate the auditors and and have an easier time?
That's a good question. That is a good question. The answer to that is probably, I think that would be a little bit tough. Auditors are, they're tough people. They're not scared of very much. And, an auditor sort of walks in the door with a chip on his shoulder. And I think the general feeling of, I'm here to do my job. And I think that superheroes well, they're heroes, right? They're not villains. So maybe in a super villain costume, but I don't know. The auditors might be wearing that costume in and of themselves. So, I think in a way, nobody may like them very much, like certain other professions, but I think auditors are really one of the best friends you can have. They really are the superhero. They're the people that are coming in to look and make you aware of areas of your company that may be vulnerable. And I think, and again, as we speak, it's mid-May 2024. There is a massive cyber attack going on a very key hospital system. I believe it's Ascension St. Vincent's has got a nationwide ransomware attack going on their hospitals. I think it's like hundreds of hospitals are having to do manual paperwork right now on patients. I really just can't imagine what that is like. It'd be very stressful to be a patient, very stressful to be a doctor, very stressful to be anybody in one of those facilities right now. I think the people that do this stuff are evil. And I think that auditors are the people who may be in the best position to make sure, that people are aware of the reality of what their cyber and information security posture is. And to us, I think that's huge. I think if you don't have respect for what it is that they're actually there to do, yes, they can certainly do some bad things, like get you fined, and they can stop you from, being able to do your defense work for at least a period of time while it's remediated. I think those are necessary penalties to demonstrate how serious this problem is. And, I would probably have to call the auditors the heroes here. That's kind of a little quick backstory. On-call does not have an interest in doing audits of this. I find far more benefit and potential in helping someone to go from zero to compliant and getting this solved. But there's just a significant lack of auditors out there. There's a significant lack of people with real world cybersecurity expertise. And so, we are becoming a C3 PAO simply because, the world needs that. And I wish that wasn't the case. I really like the preparation side, and that's where we'll continue to openly focus. But I also think that at the end of the day, we're just going to have to do what the world needs us to do. And I think that includes being an auditor so that we can help people to understand in a very real perspective, what is it that, what is it you need to do to make yourself safe?
A- Absolutely, and that's a great topic. As I mentioned, a great topic, a lot of valuable information. But that wraps up another great episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our discussion today has provided you with valuable insights and practical strategies and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to thank Mike for joining us and bringing us very valuable information on a hugely important topic. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Roman. Glad to do it.
Conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us on our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast. If they haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, they should like, subscribe, and tell a fellow defense contractor about our podcast. I got to tell you, Roman, thousands of subscribers now. We're really making some great traction with this thing. And I think most importantly, we're just helping a lot of people. And that really makes our day.
There you go. By clicking the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform or the subscribe button with that little notification bell on YouTube, you'll be notified when new episodes like this one are released. And we'd truly appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us next time as we delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.